You better believe the good times are rolling here on Overdrive. I am your host, Kyle Magda, with our special edition that we have for you tonight. It is the second edition of Monday Memories. As we go back 15 years to this year, so 15 years ago would be 1998, in the year of NASCAR. Now, 1998 was a very significant year because it was the 50th anniversary for NASCAR. The sport was started in 1948 by the late Bill France, and really, who would ever thought that his idea of a stock car league would ever come to happen? His meeting at the Daytona Hotel in 1947 would lead to NASCAR. But all aside, 1998, starting the year, that same question that everybody asked, was this going to be the year that Dale Earnhardt won the Daytona 500? Well, something he did every year in the 90s, actually, is he won his Twin 125 qualifying race on Thursday of Speed Weeks, and once again he did it. So really, looking good going into Sunday, and really just, could this be the year Dale Earnhardt wins the Daytona 500? But most of the race, it was Rusty Wallace led a little bit. Jeremy Mayfield, who just came over to run for Penske in the number 12 car, had a good car as well. So did our defending Winston Cup Series champion Jeff Gordon. But Dale Earnhardt led a lot of the race. Toward the end of the race, was everyone thinking, is history going to repeat itself? Because Dale Earnhardt has come so close on numerous occasions. In 1990, he was leading the race, heading into the turn 3 on the last lap. It had a tire go down, giving the win to Derek Cope. 1993 finished runner-up to Dale Jarrett. 95 finished runner-up to Sterling Marlin. Then 96 finished runner-up once again to Dale Jarrett. And then 1997 was in the hunt late in the race and actually got into an accident and wound up flipping. And the funny part was he actually drove his car back to the pits after he flipped, which was pretty awesome. But all peril aside, Dale Earnhardt did have the best car on the day. And toward the end of the race, with 2 laps to go, with Earnhardt out in front, there was a wreck behind the leaders, and the caution came out. So whoever got back to the line first was going to win the Daytona 500. And as history has it, Dale Earnhardt made it back to the line and claimed his first Daytona 500. It was pretty bittersweet for the Intimidator, finally getting that elusive Daytona 500 win on his resume. He's already won the Brickyard 400, won a road course race, won numerous times on short tracks, and a 7-time Winston Cup champ as well. So really, it was good to see him. And I didn't see the race, but what I've seen from video was all the pit crews lining up and giving him a handshake. That was pretty sweet. Seeing all the pit crews showing the respect for the guy who finally won the Daytona 500. And actually, it was a pretty good end for the weekend because on Saturday of that race, his son, Dale Earnhardt Jr., running for his father in the Busch Series, actually flipped on his hood. So that was, I guess you could say it was kind of a payback from Saturday, but that happens sometimes. But that was surprisingly, that would be Dale Earnhardt's only win of the year. Still looking for that 8th championship, but it wouldn't be in 1998. Going to the second race of the year, Jeff Gordon, who's coming off the championship in 97, was once again going to have a great year. And really, he and Ray Evernham are just like peanut butter and jelly. They just keep going every year, and they keep going with the success. And the beginning of the Rockingham race in the spring, he had a really bad handling car, but they worked on it numerously throughout the race, and he came back and won the race. 1998 also featured the first time they ever ran at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Now, in the years before, the NASCAR Busch Series and Truck Series ran there. So they kind of know the track a little bit. So Cup drivers who may have run those races in the past have a little advantage. But at the end of the day, it was Mark Martin claiming his first win of 1998 and taking the first win at Las Vegas Motor Speedway in the Cup Series. So, good for him. But pretty much the 98 season revolved around Jeff Gordon. And he actually wound up winning 13 times, which is a record in the modern era. And no driver Let's come close to that. The closest was Jimmy Johnson with 10 wins in 2007. And really, Jeff Gordon just set the high standard for everybody. Mark Martin won a lot early in the year. He won at California. He won at Texas. He also won the Winston. Actually, the Winston, Jeff Gordon led most of that race, but ran out of fuel late, and Mark Martin won the race. So it was a really interesting year. But 1998 is also remembered for a lot of moments that happened. As like I said, Dale Earnhardt finally winning the Daytona 500, and also the Martinsville Fall race when Ricky Rudd won the race, and actually was out of breath after the end of that race. He was in victory lane being attended to by the medics, and really had to give him oxygen. He couldn't breathe. But still, that picture of him in victory lane stands out in his career. But he only won of the year, and his win streak kept going. From 1983 to 1998 was still going strong. So that was intact. And also, we've had some guys also visit victory lane as well, same as Ricky Rudd. We also had Bobby Hamilton visit victory lane in Martinsville in the spring in the number 4 car for Morgan McClure Racing. Actually, his first year for that team, running for that team. So that was good to see him get a win for that team. And also, another big event that happened that year was the Pepsi 400 in July actually got postponed to October because of wildfires in Florida. And really bad wildfires, like I said, and actually moved the race to October, and actually it was the week after Talladega, so you had 2 super speedway races back to back. I don't know if you'll ever see that again, but that was interesting. So, also Dale Jarrett won a couple times in 1998. He won the spring race in Darlington, the Trans-South Financial 400 for that year. And also, going into the spring, like I said, it was pretty much all Jeff Gordon in NASCAR's 50th anniversary season. And really, actually, the end of the Coca-Cola 600, I don't remember, but I remember seeing Rusty Wallace took 2 tires late in that going, but Jeff Gordon on 4 tires passed him and wound up winning the Coke 600. Now, the next week at Dover, Jeff Gordon absolutely dominated the race, but he didn't have good fuel mileage. But Dale Jarrett and Jeff Burton did, and Dale Jarrett wound up pulling off the victory at Dover. And what was really surprising was, who the points leader was after Dover? It was Jeremy Mayfield, who has not won a single race in his career yet, and looking for that first win. What a year he's having for Penske so far. So we're going to see if he could get his first win of the year. Okay, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk and see if Jeremy Mayfield actually got that first win. So keep it tuned here to Spreaker. You're listening to Overdrive. Back, folks, after a short break. Now, a lot of things happened in 1998. I also want to get to a few things that happened that year. In February, the Denver Broncos beat the Green Bay Packers in the Super Bowl and giving John Elway his first Super Bowl championship. Also in 1998, the New York Yankees were on a torrid run, winning 114 games and sweeping the San Diego Padres in 4 games in the World Series. And also in 1998, a guy by the name of Frank Kimmel won his first ARCA Series championship. What a legacy he would leave coming in the next 15 years. So, few things to get to in 1998. Also, the movie The Small Soldiers came out, that cartoon. It wasn't a cartoon, but it was with action figures. And actually, Bobby Labonte ran a Soldiers paint scheme in the Coke 600 that year, so pretty interesting. But going back to our points leader, Jeremy Mayfield, winless going into Pocono. And really, could he really win a race? He did win a race. He won the Winston Open back in May, got him into the All-Star race, so he hasn't been shut out completely. And Jeremy Mayfield, been an ARCA competitor, ran a few years with Cale Yarborough in the Cup Series, I think 95 and 96 in the number 98 RCA car, and had a few couple good runs. 97, he did grab his first pole at Talladega, the number 37 Kmart car. So he's been close. He just got a really good ride with Penske with Mobil 1 sponsorship in the 12 car. And Pocono came in June of 98. And on the day, he led the most laps, but he had to get around his boyhood idol, Darrell Waltrip. Now, Darrell Waltrip did start the year in his own number 17 car, but in March, Steve Park, a rookie driving the number 1 car for Dale Earnhardt, had a really bad testing accident, and it sidelined him for many months. And so Dale Earnhardt wound up calling Darrell Waltrip to drive his car. You don't see that too often. I mean, the former competitors who are now friends at rivals at one time, but Darrell Waltrip was there just to see if he still had it, and he had some good runs, and he showed that he did. But late in the race at Pocono, with about 25 to go, Darrell Waltrip wound up getting the lead, and Jeremy Mayfield had to pass him for the win. And with 21 laps to go, Jeremy Mayfield passed Darrell Waltrip and hung on and had to hold off a strong pack of cars, including Jeff Gordon and Dale Jarrett, to get his first Winston Cup Series victory of the year. And finally, the Winston Cup points leader won a race. So it wasn't shut out. But like I said, also the road courses were interesting races as well. Jeff Gordon wound up actually dominating at Sears Point. And actually, this was the first year that Sears Point ran on the 1.99 mile course, because in the years past, they used to run on a 2.52 mile course, which included the bus stop in a different section of the track. But this year they cut it off, so it's not the same track. And like I said, the race isn't as long, because in the years past the race was 74 laps, and in 1998 it was moved to 112 laps because, like I said, of the layout being changed. So he kind of dominated the the race, and Bobby Hamilton wound up finishing runner-up to him. And actually, at Watkins Glen later on in the year, late in the race, actually Mike Skinner was leading late in the race, and he drives the 31 car for Richard Childress Racing with low sponsorship in his second full-time season in the Winston Cup Series. And really, nobody knew he was leading the race. He was actually trying to save gas, but he wound up getting passed late in the race by Jeff Gordon, who went on to win the race and sweep the road courses. But Mike Skinner almost won that race, and with good fuel mileage. And also, something I noticed about that race, I actually watched a while ago, is Ron Fellows ran that race as well. He drove the 96 Cat car, who was normally driven by David Green, qualified second but had some issues and didn't finish the race. But Ron Fellows has always been good at Watkins Glen, and in any series he's run, mainly NASCAR, Trans Am, he's won in. And really, Ron Fellows has come close to winning at the Glen. He was runner-up in 1999 to Jeff Gordon and in 2004 to Tony Stewart. So he was very close to winning, but he does have 2 Camping World Truck Series wins there in 97 and 99, and he also has 3 Busch Series wins there as well, 1998, 1998, 2000, 2001. I almost said 1999 because he was actually leading that race late, had some problems, and Dale Jr. wound up getting past him and won the race. So, almost screwed up there, folks, so I apologize for that. And also was the Brickyard 400 in 1998, and the Noble 5, of course, intact, as it is every year. And Dale Jarrett had a really good car early on, but he wound up running his car out of gas and had to coast back, but he wound up going down a few laps And Jeff Gordon wound up winning that race, and he dominated most of the race. And Mark Martin wound up finishing bridesmaid again at the Brickyard. And Mark Martin has still not won the Brickyard 400 to this day, also finishing second in 2009 to Jimmy Johnson as well. So he's been close, but no cigar. So, also New Hampshire as well. Jeff Burton wound up winning the July race, and I'm pretty sure Jeff Gordon won the September race, but also for both Michigan races, Mark Martin wound up winning in the spring, and Jeff Gordon won the August race there. And also Jeff Gordon, what he did, like I said, is pretty much dominated most of the year, won 13 times, was the second Pocono race. He led 164 laps on the day and dominated and won the race. And really just put a whooping on him that day. But also, Bristol was an interesting race as well. Mark Martin wound up coming out on top. He hasn't won there in a few years, so it's kind of interesting to see Mark Martin win the race. I think the last time he won was either, 93, and that was the night race as well, so that might have been 5 years that he didn't win a race there at Bristol. So, and Jeff Gordon wound up winning the next week at Darlington for the Pepsi Southern 500. And like I said, Jeff actually won the spring race at Bristol, so he had some wins in his pocket already. So, and also another good race was the Richmond race. It had a great finish, and actually both races were pretty good. The Springer race featured Jeff Gordon, Rusty Wallace battling late, and actually Rusty getting into Jeff. And that would escalate into the years coming forth, and Terry Labonte wound up winning that night. That was actually run in June. And then in the September fall race, Jeff Burton and Jeff Gordon were battling. Now, they've had some history. It was the year before, the 1997 Mountain Dew Southern 500. Came down between those two guys, and Jeff Gordon came on top and won the Winston Million in 97. And really, that was a great finish. Go look that up on YouTube. The 1998 Exide 400 at Richmond. Really good finish between those two drivers. Okay, we're going to take our last break. When we come back, we're going to take you through the last couple weeks, actually a couple months, of the 1998 season. So stay tuned. You're listening to Overdrive here on Spreaker. Yeah, speaking of rockets, Jeff Gordon sure had a rocket in 1998, winning all his races. So we're back, and I thought I'd just throw that in there, and trying to throw in a greatness there. And actually, in 1998, also current six-time Sprint Cup Series champion Jimmy Johnson made his Busch Series debut that year. The number 59 Kingsford car in the NASCAR Busch Series at Indianapolis Raceway Park for JTG Racing, Doherty Racing. So that's something interesting I did not know. And also in 1998, as I said earlier, Dale Earnhardt Jr. started his year upside down at Daytona, but he did win multiple times, and so did his competitor for the championship, Matt Kenseth, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. went on to win the 1998 NASCAR Busch Series Championship. Also, a great battle at the end of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series season as well between Jack Sprague and Ron Hornaday. Now, Sprague was the defending champion of that series and looking to repeat, but Ron Hornaday had something else to say. In that last race of the year, toward the end of that race at Las Vegas, actually around the same day as the Napa 500 in Atlanta for the Cup Series, there was a battle late in the race between Hornaday, Sprague, and Greg Biffle, who was driving the 50 truck for Roush Racing at the time. And Jack Sprague wound up winning the race, but it wasn't enough as Ron Hornaday won the championship, and Jack Sprague was kind of upset in victory lane that Greg Biffle wouldn't let him over just to get the position. But that happens, and that's how it ended up. So Greg Biffle would kind of get a taste of his own medicine the year afterwards in 1999 when his teammate wouldn't let him pass him, and Jack Sprague wanted to win the championship. So you can go look that up. That race is on YouTube, the 1999 at Napa Auto Parts 200 at California, the Truck Series finale from that year. Also, the truck finale you probably won't find on YouTube, but there are clips of the finish of it. So definitely something to definitely look up as well. So something interesting to look. So going back to 1998 season, now we're at Richmond. Now going into Dover, actually Bill Elliott had a really bad accident that year. I'm not sure where, but he had a really bad crash. Might have been Talladega that year, and had to sit out a few races toward the middle of the year. And at Dover, a driver by the name of Matt Kenseth wound up making his Winston Cup Series debut, the number 94 for Bill Elliott, and that Jeff Gordon did go on to win the. I'm not sure. Maybe it was Mark Martin. Mark Martin might have won the race. I will double check on that, folks. But actually, Matt Kenseth wound up finishing 6th in that race, so that was a really good job by that team. Actually, Mark Martin did go on to win the race that day, and Jeff Gordon wound up finishing 2nd, but Matt Kenseth finished 6th in the Bill Elliott car, so good for him. And like I said, battled with Dale Jr. for the championship that year, but just fell short, so that happens. And actually, Matt got his first Busch Series win at Rockingham in the spring, beating out a current Spring Cup Series driver by the name of Tony Stewart, who hopefully will come back strong in 2014. So, actually, Smoke did run the full Busch Series in 1998, but he never won a Busch race. Rockingham was his closest, getting passed on the last lap by Matt Kenseth. Also, another good race to look up on YouTube. Definitely recommend it. So, as we head into the last few months of the 98 Cup season, pretty much Jeff Gordon is out doing what he has to do. And like I said, Martinsville race happened, and with Ricky Rudd almost passed out in victory lane. And also, Dale Jarrett claimed the win at the Talladega Superspeedway and the Winston 500. Actually, the Winston 500 was always run in the spring, but 1998 was the first year it was run in the fall. So, and Bobby Labonte actually won the Die Hard 500 at Talladega in the spring. So, Bobby did win a couple races that year. Didn't have the success that he wanted, but he had a few wins. He won the Atlanta Spring Race, which at the time, Bobby Labonte was probably the master of Atlanta, because in the fall of 97, they reconfigured Atlanta from a 1.52 mile track to 1.54. If you ever get a chance, go on YouTube, look up the ARCA race from that weekend. It's probably one of the most exciting finishes that you'll ever see in the ARCA series. Just flat out fantastic. And Bobby Labonte wound up winning the first race on the new configuration as well. And actually, Jeff Bodine that weekend laid down a lap of 197 miles an hour, which to this day is still not broken at Atlanta Motor Speedway, which is phenomenal. So, but going back to 1998, actually, speaking of which, the week before Talladega, Mark Martin did win the Charlotte race, the fall race. So Mark Martin did have a lot of success in 98, but just could not compete to the standards of what Jeff Gordon did. Jeff Gordon was just outstanding that year. Like I said, 13 wins with Ray Evernham. And actually just, Phoenix came around, and actually Phoenix was a rain-shortened race, and Rusty Wallace wound up winning it. Would you ever think that Phoenix would ever get rain shortened? Yeah, it got rain shortened. I don't think I've ever seen that. That's just crazy. I've never seen that. I don't think. Maybe that might be the only time it ever got rained out. So, interesting year. Then they headed back to Rockingham the next week, and Jeff Gordon finally put a nail in the coffin in winning the race and clinching the 1998 NASCAR Winston Cup Series Championship. Just a fantastic year by that whole number 24 team. So, also, heading into the final race of the year, Kenny Irwin won the pole. Actually, a rookie for Robert Yates Racing in the number 28 Ford. Actually, Kenny Irwin's season started off really well. He actually won the season opening ARCA race at Daytona that year in the number 27 Ray Bestis Ford, which was actually a Thunderbird. But good practice for him because he never ran a super speedway before. Actually made his Cup debut in 1997 at Richmond in the fall. So won the pole for the race. And actually it was, at least what I've heard, dubbed the 24 Hours of Atlanta or the 12 Hours of Atlanta. The race started about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And really, Jeff Gordon led early on. Mark Martin, Dale Jarrett led the race early on. And a lot of people thought that race would never end that year, that day actually. And there were some competitors late in the race. And it's interesting because actually the race wound up finishing late in the night around 10 o'clock and under the lights because Atlanta just put a new lighting system for the Indy Racing League. So they've had some interesting things happen in the 98 season. And actually toward late in the race it came down between Dale Jarrett and Jeff Gordon. So, and Jeff already had 12 wins on the year, so he needs one more to tie Richard Petty for the modern era record for number of wins. And with about between 5 and 10 laps to go, Jeff made the pass on Dale Jarrett and got that 13th win of the season. And really, that was just phenomenal. Great. I mean, you don't see the champ often win the final race of the season. The last to do it and win the Cup Series was Tony Stewart back in 2011, winning the race and clinching the championship, which is even more special. That's how it goes sometimes, but it happens. So, actually, that same weekend, I forgot to bring this up. Actually, the Cup race in the spring in Atlanta got postponed to Monday. And what also happened was the Steel 300 Busch Series race that was supposed to be run in March, because of all the rain, got moved to November. And really, that was the second time in 5 years that the Atlanta Busch race in March got moved. As I mentioned our last episode, 1993, it got snowed out and got moved to November. So, it's not the first time it's happened due to weather. So, and actually, Mark Martin won the Busch race that day, and Dale Jr. finished second. All he needing was a good finish at the finale at Homestead, Miami. And that was another great Busch race. You have to look up the finish of that one. It came down to Jeff Burton, Jimmy Spencer, and Mark Martin. So I'll let you folks decide and watch it. I'm not going to spoil anything. So, but like I said, definitely a good season in 1998. Good year, good way to celebrate NASCAR's 50th anniversary. Like I said, the dominance of the 24 team and Jeff Gordon. That was just outstanding what they did. And to this day, nothing has been replicated of that year. And Mark Martin did finish second in the standings, but he was like 300 or 400 points behind. It wasn't close, but he did win a considerable amount of races. But didn't win the championship and was the bridesmaid once again. So, really great year. I mean, I actually bought a yearbook from 1998, the Winston Cup Series yearbook from that year, and I plan on reading it a lot. So when I get some more downtime, I'm going to read it and see how that goes. So, what a great show tonight. Just a great year in racing, the 50th anniversary of NASCAR. Like I said, some great champions that year. Frank Kimmel, Ron Hornaday, Dale Earnhardt Jr., who would be up and coming. And also want to just throw out also the NASCAR running at Japan. And Mike Skinner wound up beating Jeff Gordon in that race. And Dale Jr. ran that race as well, the number 1 Coca-Cola car, that famous polar bear. So I'd like to thank you all for listening tonight. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. And we'll see you next week for 2003. So have a great night, everybody.